Hello everyone. So in this video, I will quickly explain my perspective on the in-class exercises from the last session, grouping and composition. Hopefully it wasn't too frustrating for you all. So first, let's open up the file in InDesign and we'll take a look at the constructivist poster. We'll start by breaking down the composition into grids, just using the create guides. And then we'll take a look at just this big circle at first. So we'll start with columns. And we'll just start increasing it until we find something that matches. So it seems that 6 matches really, really well, and we'll keep it at that. So as I suggested in the class, it's good to keep the rows and columns the same. That way, the cell ends up being the same proportion as the entire page size. So as we can see here, this is the same proportion as the poster itself. So we'll hit OK. And taking a look here, we can also see that this block of text of all the artists are fit pretty well into these two cells right here, starting at this one. So we'll hit OK. All right, so let's take a look at the questions. So what is the diameter of the main circle to the poster size? So that's a pretty easy question. Obviously, the diameter of the circle is 2 cells wide. And where is it placed? It's placed right to the center of the poster. And then where does a horizontal line sit? So the horizontal line sits a little strangely, but I would say it's close enough to the halfway through the one of these cells. It's a little bit less or a little bit higher, but for the purposes of this exercise, I think it's close enough. And where does the baseline of the title sit? So again, it's pretty close, but I would say it's halfway between the line and the bottom of the cell. So between these two lines, it's like halfway there. So that's where the baseline would be. And if you draw a diagonal line from the top bottom, is there an intersection point with the grid that determines where the list and date are placed? So apologies, but I forgot to mention to place another diagonal from the bottom left to the end of the line in the middle here. And then you can see from the intersecting point here that it creates a line where the date and the artist list is placed. All right, so let's take a look at the second example. So we'll do the same thing as before, and we will just break this image down into grids using create guides. So let's start off with rows this time, and then we'll just make sure our guides are 0, and then we'll just start increasing it until we find something that fits well. So I'm just going to look at the major elements in the image and see what I think seems to fit well. So seems like 8 is going really well. We're almost hitting the top of the umbrella and the bottom of her hand, but let's just go one more. And here we can really see that the top of the umbrella really matches really well to the first row. And you can also even see the shadow that it creates also fits well into the bottom 2 rows. And even her hand fits really well, just touches the bottom row right there. So in keeping the cells the same proportion as the entire poster, I'll also say 9 columns as well. And just take a look at that. And we can really see that the woman fits really well into here, especially her head. Her head, and also with like the man's head right here. They seem to take up the cells quite well. And also if we take a look at the inside of the umbrella right here, you can see that it fits really well. So 9 by 9 works pretty well. So we'll hit OK, and we'll just take a look at the questions. All right, so the first question is, how does a large ellipse of the umbrella fit into the grid? So we can take a look here, and again, we can see that the umbrella takes up the width of the entire composition. But if we take a look at how high it is, we can also see that seems to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. So it takes up 6 by 9, an area of 6 by 9, and that kind of relates to about 2/3 of the poster. And then how does the middle of the umbrella, it's a stretcher, so this part right here, fit into the poster? So you can see that this one fits about 4 columns across, and also about 1, 2, 3, about 3 rows down. So where's the center of the poster in relation to the umbrella? So if you take a look at the center of the poster, just by looking at the bounding box, you can see the darkest part of the umbrella stretcher sits right above the center of the poster. And then the fourth question is, how does the axes of the diagonal of the umbrella fit to the grid? So you can see right here that the umbrella going from its width comes exactly from this, the third cell down, all the way down to the cell right here. And that is the entire diameter of the ellipse of the umbrella. And it fits perfectly into the grid starting from this corner to this corner of the cells. And then how do the figures fit into the grid? So we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but the figures seem to fit really well into the columns. So especially her arm and her, most like the larger part of her torso and her head, and especially with the man, he seems to fit these 2 cells right here, and his arm fits into these cells, and his legs go right across, fitting into this row right here. All right, so let's move on to our next example. So finally, let's take a look at this very geometric example here. So again, we'll just start breaking it down, and we'll see what works best. So this time I'll start with columns again. And it seems that 8 fits perfectly right here, makes a nice little, matches up with the neck and the chin, and also this brown column right here. Yes, that I believe is correct. And then for rows, let's take a look. So we'll put 8 here again, but in this sense, it doesn't really work too well. So let's reduce it and see what happens. And now if we take a look at 6, it seems that the neck fits, the chin, I mean, fits perfectly into this cell right here. And also it seems that these little electrical things are also fitting. This one fits very well here. This one's centered in. This one fits on the base. So I am comfortable saying that 6 works well. And you can even see that the L fits really perfectly here, and also the angles, which we'll talk about in a bit. So we'll hit OK, and then we'll just take a look at the questions. All right, so how does the brown column fit into the grid? So as we can see, it fits perfectly into here, into this column right here. And where does the corner of the L sit? So if you look closely at the corner of the L, you can see that is the exact center of the poster. And the angle of the Lintran's title is at a 45-degree angle, and it intersects with all of the corners of the cells. So you can see right there that it goes exactly from this corner to this corner. So that relates to the page. And then let's take a look at the features of the face. So we can tell that the nose is also at a 45-degree angle, starting from half of the cells right here. The neck you can definitely see is 45-degree angles going from these 4 cells right here. And you can also see that the nose is also where this cell is, the diagonal of this cell right here. Also, if we take a look at some other things, sort of like the size of the mouth, if you make a circle the same height as the cell, you will see that it is actually the size of the mouth there as well. So you can see how everything relates perfectly in this composition. And finally, just taking a look at the radiating lines, you can see how the radiating lines ends pretty much at the cells, or they intersect at a portion at the cells within the grid as well. All right, so that's the InDesign examples. Next, we'll move on to the golden section ones in Adobe Illustrator. All right, so now let's take a look at the golden section grids examples of the in-class exercise. So in the example, I've already placed all the golden section overlays on there, and I'll just walk you through my thinking process. So in the first example of this poster right here, I decided that the golden section worked really well when it was fit to the width of the poster and then placed at the very bottom. From here, you can really see that the text fits really well in here, in these cells right here. And it seems like the letterings from here starts at the top of this cell right here, and then again goes all the way here. This is in pretty much the center of the poster, so obviously it fits really well in this cell right here. And as for the image, it seems to fit really well in the top area right here. And the text also fits really well here. And then you can see that it ends at the half of the poster composition. All right, so let's move on to this one. So this one's a bit messy for sure, and I think you could go many ways analyzing this one. But I decided to fit, again, this one by the width, same way as I did the last one, just because I think some of the major elements seem to fit really well into the grids here. So here we can see that this typo area seems to fit really well in this cell right here. So I thought that was quite telling. And then with the Sonri area right here, it fits really well into the bottom of this cell here and into here. And then we have a lot of information in here, but I was particularly taken by this black area, this black dot right here, which fits really well into sort of this chunk right here. And then this palace area also seems to fit this cell right here. So again, this example was a little bit chaotic, and of course it was meant to be, but I feel like some of the main areas satisfy the golden section grid. In this letters poster, this one was it took me some time to figure out, but I settled on this analysis just because I thought most of the elements in terms of text fit really well in here. So I fit the golden section grid in this one to the height of the poster, and it seems like the letters fits really well into this cell right into the top sort of squares right here, going right across and almost close to the bottom of the cell. This too fits really well in this square right here, and then this text right here sort of fits really well from the top of this area into the bottom of here and to this cell. So it really seems to fit this area right here. So this creates an optical line across, and this also has a line across, so this area fits well here. And then the on landscape, you can kind of tell right here, the on landscape just fits really well into this bottom section right here. So this one, I'm pretty happy with how the composition analysis came. In this poster, I think this one is pretty accurate to the composition. As we can see here with the arm, it fits perfectly into the top cell right here, just like with the arm fitting down here, and even the hands sort of following the arc. And you can see the lettering in there also fits really well into the cell right here. And even the thumb sort of follows the arc right here. So that's quite beautiful. And then if we take a look at the text, even though it's flush left and not quite center, it still really matches well with the grid. So you can see that the title of the theater right here and the Des 13 also fits into this section right here with the vowels right down here. And you can see how these letters sort of end at this cell, and then these letters end at this line sort of created right here. So all in all, I think that fit really well into the golden section grid. So now we have the Afrofuturist poster. So we can kind of take a look here, and I think this one is pretty easy to analyze. You can see that the golden section grid sort of contains everything quite well. Especially we have the names of everyone right in this cell right here. We have the big Afro word just at the top square right here. The main subtitles of this area right here fits really well into the row created here. And then you can really see the text here fits really well. And how they stagger the text. This is to the left of this column right here. And it seems like the O was made to align with the A and also fits really well there. So this one, I think, is an exceptional example of how you can see how it all fits together in the grid. Finally, we have this example here, and this example was a little bit harder for me to place, but eventually I think I settled on this placement for the analysis of the composition of this poster. You can see right here that the title fits really well in this block, but this time I was looking at like the really subtle details and seeing how it fit in. So I noticed that this O, or what looks like a bow tie, fits really well into this section right here. So with the optical horizontal line here ending in this cell, that seems to fit really well. The P, the end of the P, pretty much ends at this line, maybe just a little bit over, and you can see how the R fits really well into the section right here. With the other details, you can kind of see how the R fits down here, the S fits really well here. And then the O seems to fit really well into not this square, but just a little one cell over into there. So I thought this was an interesting way to apply the compositional system here, and it seems to fit quite well. Again, there's really no really right or wrong answer here, but hopefully you can use the system to help inform your own designs and help analyze other designs. There's also many other ways to analyze these posters. You could try subdividing it, for instance, or looking at the diagonals. The golden section grid is a good overall way to just analyze the composition by matching it to the width or the height, and that works out usually pretty well.